We're live in London for the Children's Health Defence. We've been at the Medical Freedom March today, and I bumped into Anna Devisseray, the senior UK lawyer, and I'm hoping that she's going to give us a few minutes to talk about the legal challenges in the UK and notice of liability. So, Anna.
Right.
Yeah.
Hi, Anna. Hi, everybody. Thank you for giving me a platform. As Anna says, I'm Anna Devisseray. I'm a senior UK lawyer. I've been practicing law for about 27 years, studying it for over 30. And I've been working with a team of UK lawyers and international lawyers now for about a year. We've been drilling down into the legal analysis, the evidential analysis, working with experts from all around the world, hearing their evidence about what's happening. So medical experts, scientific experts, and as I say, what the legal analysis is that this is crimes against humanity that are being committed. It is genocide, it's biowarfare, and that's the view of senior lawyers from around the world. So these are lawyers from America, from Canada, from Australia, from New Zealand, from Czechoslovakia, from Belgium, from Austria. We've all found each other, as I say, conducted extensive analysis. You know, we're literally working, 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, multiple Zoom meetings, and it's really quite disturbing because actually when you hear lawyers from around the world say exactly the same thing, as I've said to people, we're either all stupid, but how do you practice for that length of time being stupid, or we're all mad, again the same point, or we're all senior lawyers who are capable of reading the law, understanding it, applying it, and most of us on the front line are litigators, so this is what we do. We look at the evidence, we look at the law, and we bring cases to sort it out and uphold the rule of law. So that is us all being peer reviewed by each other. So what we're doing is in various jurisdictions legal cases are being amounted. Various judicial reviews of the vaccine rollout for children are being mounted all around the world. In the UK there's a current judicial review. We asked for an injunction to stop the rollout, but the judge, Mr. Justice Lay, said that it had already started, so he wasn't going to grant an injunction, but he has ordered the government to produce evidence to confirm that this won't be harmful and that it is all scientifically sound. Which
How
of course,
long do they have?
Well, good question. I asked for an update last night from the legal team who are actually running the trial, and unfortunately I haven't had an update. So I thought, my recollection was they were given 14 days, and I would have thought the 14 days is up by now.
Okay.
But I'm also working with the Malaysian team. They had a judicial review. Unfortunately, same thing. It's almost as if they're reading from a script, question mark. But, the injunction was denied. It's going to appeal. And us lawyers are helping each other with our legal submissions, etc., and we're swapping affidavits. So what we're hoping is that in various jurisdictions these laws will be tested, the evidence will be attested, and obviously upheld in certain jurisdictions. But the problem we have is that A, we can't cherry pick the judge that we're in front of, so we don't know who we're going to be in front of. B, it's a huge amount of work to bring it to trial. C, once you're in the trial process, you're limited as to what you can say and do. D, it takes so long for a judgment to happen that even if it goes in our favour, by that time thousands, millions of people are being injected, people are dying. So one of the other ways that we're tackling this is by identifying who the perpetrators are of the harm that's being caused. So for those of you who don't understand, we are a common law jurisdiction in this country, and lots of countries around the world claim their jurisdiction from the UK. And the common law general principle is do no harm. First, do no harm. And what that means is that you don't get to harm anybody's person, property, liberty, etc. And that is a constitutional duty to act to prevent harm. Omitting to act is as guilty as acting to cause harm. So what we're doing is we're identifying who is injecting people, who's masking them, who's testing them, who is breaching the bodily and psychiatric integrity of the individual. Because again, under common law, voluntas agreti suprema lex. Over his or own mind or body, the individual is sovereign. And nobody gets to derogate from that fundamental, inalienable human right. We are all sovereign. We are all equal in the eyes of God. We're all equal under the rule of law. No one is above it. And a fundamental maxim of law is that you have sovereignty over your own mind and body. Nobody gets to break that, not even in times of public emergency threatening the life of the nation. There is no right to derogate from the fundamental right to life, from the right not to be tortured or to receive cruel, inhumane or degrading treatment, not to have your right to privacy and your right to family life affected. Those rights cannot be derogated from, even in war. The only time it's lawful is if it's in a lawful act of war. Well, when you read the war conventions, means and methods of warfare are not unlimited. You cannot, for example, run a campaign of terror against the occupied enemy. You cannot conduct live human experiments, give people medical treatment without their informed consent voluntarily given. That is against the law, even in wartime. So the idea that a bunch of bureaucrats in 2020, 2021 get to come along and set aside our rule of law, claiming there's a public health emergency, is not legal, it's not lawful, it's not moral, it's not ethical. So what we're doing is identifying people who are breaking the law, and we're serving them with a notice of liability, which says to the individual, you personally are causing harm. You personally are in breach of not only the common law, but in the international treaties, the European conventions, UK domestic law. And we're saying to people, you are individually accountable and liable in your personal capacity, criminally and civilly. There is nowhere to run. There is nowhere to hide. No one is going to defend you, because the law says you must uphold the law, you must not cause harm, and you are personally liable. So what I've done is we've drafted a notice of liability. It runs to 170 odd pages, and in this what you do is you set out the name of the person, who they're acting as. So for example, I've just used the name Jane Brown, acting as, for example, head teacher of the school, name and address, and then whoever else is involved in perpetrating these crimes. And what we do is we set out the law. So the first one being, prima non nocere. Prima non nocere is first do no harm. You have a duty of care. You have legal, lawful, moral and ethical requirement to obtain freely informed consent. And then I set out, literally there are pages and pages and pages of the law, including, for example, the Nuremberg Code, Part 1 of the Schedule Medicine for Human Use Clinical Trials Regulations 2004, the Declaration of Helsinki, the Oviedo Convention, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And I read this out to you earlier. Can I just read the preamble? I just want to read a little bit of the preamble, which says, whereas recognition of the inherent dignity and of the equal and inalienable rights of all members of the human family is the foundation of freedom, justice and peace in the world, whereas disregard and contempt for human rights have resulted in barbarous acts which have outraged the conscience of mankind. Bearing in mind this is 1948, right? And the advent of a world in which human beings shall enjoy freedom of speech, note that Reuters and Facebook and all the other platforms who are trying to censor us, and belief and freedom from fear and want has been proclaimed as the highest aspiration of the common purpose. Now this is the most important point. Whereas it is essential, if man is not compelled to have recourse as a last resort to rebellion against tyranny and oppression, that human rights should be protected by the rule of law.